Hello and welcome to Face Off here on France 24. Nicolas Sarkozy in the eye of the storm. In recent days, the former president first learned that one of his closest aides during his mandate had secretly taped their conversations, private chats that were leaked to the press. He then learned that judges had wiretapped his conversations with his lawyer, prompting furious accusation that the ruling socialists, starting with President François Hollande, were out to get him and prevent him from making a much-anticipated political comeback. With me to discuss what some call the Sarko-gate, Jean-Marc Gonin with the Figaro magazine, and Philippe Turl from Radio France Internationale. So lots of things to talk about, and probably not something Nicolas Sarkozy wanted to talk about. Let's first start with the tapes made by one of his closest advisor, Patrick Buisson, who apparently had an audiophone during what were supposed to be strategy or purely private talks, and some of those conversations found their way to the press.
Yes, this is a very embarrassing thing. When you're in power, one of your closest advisors taping your conversation without telling you is not only a sign of treason, but also a sign of having picked somebody who he couldn't trust, really. Buisson, for his defense, says, I was not about to publish those things. I am an historian by trade, and I will use those conversations as a base for an history book someday. But you never know, and the proof is that probably somebody in his entourage close to him, some people say secretary, his son, whoever, had access to those secret talks, and they have leaked them to the press. So it weakens his defense, and it weakens Sarkozy in the way that he didn't pick someone who was up to the job.
Right. So Sarkozy filed a complaint saying that this was a violation of his private life. Nothing major until now has surfaced in those conversations. However, Jean-Marc was saying, Patrick Buisson first said, I'm her historian. Now his lawyer is saying, the taping went on without him noticing. So it seems the defense is shifting. But in what way does it hurt or not, Nicolas Sarkozy?
Well, it's definitely not going to have a positive effect on Nicolas Sarkozy. Even if you listen to what's in these tapes, there's nothing particularly scandalous or damaging for French politics or revelations that shouldn't have been made. There are some rather nasty remarks where you hear them talking about Nicolas Sarkozy calling him a dwarf, or you hear about Sarkozy's remarks about some of his ministers and who he should pick for a reshuffle. Or there's a conversation between him and his wife, Carla Bruni, who describes Nicolas Sarkozy as being a kept man because she's got more money than him. So it's something that people will snigger about, but it's not very good for the image of Nicolas Sarkozy, as Jean-Marc was saying, because people are saying, well, how could you pick a man in whom you have confidence, who's betrayed you after all these years of recording? It's just not one recording, it was recordings and recordings and recordings. And Patrick Buisson hasn't done much good in trying to defend himself by saying at the start that Nicolas Sarkozy knew about it. And Sarkozy says he didn't know about it and would never have accepted, of course, that someone records these conversations in secret. So the damage was done before, during, and now it's being done again after that these tapes have been revealed. And other people are saying, well, Patrick Buisson also didn't do Sarkozy very much good because when he was his advisor, it was he who advised Sarkozy to shift more to the far right during his election campaign. He himself having come from the National Front before that, which ended up having an adverse effect on Sarkozy's re-election chances because he thought he was going to appeal to the far-right writers and bring them back in to the right wing, which of course is what Sarkozy is from. And in fact, he ended up dividing the country even further, so he lost the election.
Right.
And I would add something to what Philippe said. You don't know where the limit is. Those recordings are out there. We have parts of it. We've read part of it, but the source might leak more, and there is a lot there because Buisson was in many, many secret meetings. So more harmful things could come out.
More harmful things came out for Nicolas Sarkozy for the first time, and at least that we know. A former president was wiretapped. This was ordered by judges. It's a complicated tale. They initially are looking into potential financing by Libya under Muammar Gaddafi of the 2007 campaign of Nicolas Sarkozy. And they seem to have found some possible fraud or influence peddling during conversations between Nicolas Sarkozy and his lawyer. And this again was leaked to the press, to the daily Le Monde. The right wing of party of Nicolas Sarkozy is accusing the president of orchestrating a political campaign.
Yes, and this looks very bad too, for two reasons. There's one, the contents of those wiretappings that have been leaked. We don't know, but we know what the judges were looking for, and we know that, for instance, there are conversations between Sarkozy's lawyer and Sarkozy himself about a judge sitting in the upper court leaking what's being discussed on Sarkozy's case inside that upper court. And that doesn't look good. But on the other hand, it doesn't look good also with the judicial system, because judges have been wiretapping Sarkozy for almost a year, which is unheard of. I mean, normally it's for drug traffickers and terrorists that you wiretap for so long conversations. There is also something that might be some kind of revenge, because Sarkozy, when in power, was not very nice to judges. He's been picking on them, accusing them, and they hate him. Right. And they have some account to settle with him.
Right, but normally democracy, rule of law doesn't work this way. I mean, many lawyers, including some who are clearly leaning left, have said they're shocked by those revelations, the fact that the wiretapping has been going on for a year, that Sarkozy's home and office were searched by policemen and in a very visible and shocking way, they say. What do you make of this? Does this look like a political vendetta?
It's very difficult to say. I mean, as Jean-Marc was saying, it could be, because the legal setup in this country doesn't like Sarkozy. Sarkozy, for one image, tried to do away with instructing magistrates while he was in office. He didn't manage to do it, but he annoyed lawyers, judges, magistrates all the way across the board because they thought he was out to get them. And so it could be that there's some kind of revenge taking place, but there's no proof of this. And what has been taking place is this tapping of Nicolas Sarkozy's phone has taken place in a legal framework. There's nothing illegal about it. Of course, it's illegal to divulge the conversation between a lawyer and their client, but you can listen to what they're saying if it's part of an inquiry into the person. What is strange in this story is that these wiretaps were set up, this phone tapping was set up to try to investigate, as you said, the possible funding by the former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi of Sarkozy's election campaign in 2007. And it shifted off into something else, which is a totally different story about money being taken from France's richest woman, Liliane Bettencourt, and used to fund Nicolas Sarkozy's election campaign in 2007 as well. And in this story, Nicolas Sarkozy has already been found to be not guilty. So the judges are once again listening into a story, which means that they shouldn't really be allowed to do that, and that's where I think all this
should be none of their business. Actually,
it should be none of their business, and that's why
you are investigating a case and you are not investigating the next one, and there you have a confusion. There are no borders anyway.
And so what some people around Nicolas Sarkozy, who's kept quiet until now, are saying is, well, François Hollande knew about this wiretapping taking place for a whole year. How wouldn't he know about it? Because clearly the justice minister, or at least someone in the police, must have known, and the buck stops with the president, like for everything in France.
It's hard to believe that he was not told. The judiciary in this country functions this way. There are the special notified cases and that are signaled to the minister.
And this would be one of them, obviously.
Yes, I mean, especially Madame Taubira, who is justice minister in the moment, said a few months ago that she insisted on being told about high-profile cases. So why would they let this aside. I mean, this one is crucial and is concerning one of the main figures in the French politics.
Of course, the big problem now...
Before Philip, let's just take a listen to one of Nicolas Sarkozy's former close advisors, not the one who was taping him, Henri Guénaud. He was speaking on France 24 on this issue very recently.
The French aren't stupid. They see this frightening pursuit over suspicions that are often ridiculous. I don't think that Nicolas Sarkozy's future is going to be influenced by all this.
That's hopeful thinking, and he could be right, he could be wrong. The big question now is, there's two questions. First of all, what damage is this going to do to Nicolas Sarkozy's re-election chances in 2017, when he wants to come back to power? He's been sort of clearing the runway to have a successful landing, to come back and say, here I am, I'm going to be the prodigal son, if you like, and become the candidate to beat François Hollande in 2017. Well, he's finding this runway is very full now of a lot of debris all over the place, of different scandals piling up that he's going to have to try and get over before his chances are free once again. So it's looking a bit uncertain for the moment that he is going to be able to come back without having to answer at least some questions. And on the other side, people within the UMP, his party, who would like to take over from Sarkozy, the big candidates themselves, are saying, aha, Sarkozy is being more and more pursued by judges, by illicit phone conversations. He obviously will end up being tried. Therefore, this will free my chances up of coming back to be a candidate. So instead of having one candidate in the form of Nicolas Sarkozy as the UMP candidate for 2017, we might have a whole load of candidates coming forward saying, well, as he's not running, I'm going to run. So it might make it much more complicated for the party.
Okay, we'll have to see how many obstacles are still on the way of Nicolas Sarkozy's comeback. Thank you very much to both of you, and thank you for watching this edition of Face Off here on France 24.